What is up, YouTube? I'm Galdite74 here, bringing you our Week 5 battle of the PEBA. This week we take on Tony, coach of Double Teamed. We are going into this game with a 3-1 record, while he is going into this game with a 1-3 record. Now, before I get into the video, I would like to let you guys know that next week and the following week, the video quality might drop a bit solely because finals are coming up for college, and I kind of have to shift my focus from this to that, obviously, because that's important. So I want to apologize in advance if it's rushed or the commentary is not as good for the next few weeks. This week will be good though. And another thing I would like to mention before we get into the video is that I did make a transaction. I got rid of Hitmontop and replaced it with Bassimian. I did lose out on points, but now I have 1 extra point, and it's not a Defiant Bassimian, it's receiver because it's 5 points, and if it was Defiant 5 points, that'd be kind of nuts. But I decided to do this because my team is kind of awkward and struggles with choosing mons past the 7 mons I usually use already, kind of 8 if you include Haxorus. It was really not like the greatest transaction. I mean, Hitmontop was not giving me anything for the team. Tangrowth or Hippowdon was giving me more than Hitmontop would ever do. And while Bassimian doesn't give me that much more, at least gives me another physical option outside of Haxorus or Diamond Storm from Mega Diancie. So that's why I decided to make the transaction. Bassimian at least has to put the thought into my opponent's brain now that that's another offensive threat that could come. It does kind of suck because I do basically have the same defensive core every week, which is unfortunate, but it's a good core, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But that is the transaction we made. But now we can move on to the actual video itself. My opponent Tony this week has an Austrian George-like team. If you have not seen my Ocean League Finals, you will not know what I'm talking about. I keep talking about that like every week at this point, but his team consists of the mons of Megalodios, Clefable, Mamoswine, Toxapex, Arcanine, Cobalion with Z-moves, Manabuzz, Lycanroc, Dusk with Z-moves, Decidueye, Estelgor, and Rotom Fan with Z-moves, so you guys can see the resemblance. What I expect him to bring consists of Megalodios, Clefable, Mamoswine, Toxapex, Lycanroc, Dusk, and Estelgor. He could bring the Cobalion and Arcanine, but I'm not sure what he would switch out, to be honest, so there's that. One thing I do fear is that my only switch into Clefable and Estelgor is Tentacruel, and if Estelgor final gambits my Tentacruel and it's dead, Clefable is a huge problem, or if Clefable knocks out my Tentacruel while it's low, or I get it chipped down enough, then Estelgor becomes a problem. So I think those two are going to cause a big problem for my Tentacruel if I let it get whittled down real quick. But the good thing is that his team, particularly his defensive core, has kind of a ground weakness, so I'm going to try and exploit that as much as possible. Yeah, he's got Megalodios, Manabuzz, and Decidueye, and Rotom Fan, but I will go over what my plan is in a few seconds. But that is his team. The team I am bringing this week consists of Tentacruel, Mega Diancie, Hippowdon, Rotom Frost, Haxorus, and Greninja. So as I just mentioned, the first mon I am bringing this week is Tentacruel. Tentacruel is rocking the Black Sludge with 248 HP, 120 defense, 132 Spadef with a Calm Nature and 8 speed. Moves being Toxic Haze, Acid Spray, and Scald. Tentacruel is possibly the most important defensive mon on the team this week, as it takes hits from Clefable and Estelgor very well. As well, it takes hits from Toxapex, Special Arcanine, Cobalion if it's not boosted, and Mandibuzz. So that is all of Tentacruel's duties this week, as I like to say. Obviously, I can't really deal with Cobalion too well, especially if it's set up, which I'm assuming if the Cobalion comes. I don't think it is, but if it does, it's probably going to be like an SD or a Stealth Rock set. One of the two. But again, it's mainly here for the Clefable and the Estelgor, as those two things kind of get out of hand, especially the Clefable if Tentacruel's low or just down. So I have to keep myself healthy for that. Acid Spray was mainly so if he's like a Magic Guard, Calm Mind, and Clefable, and he can't really heal up on me because Acid Spray lowers your Spadef by 2. So that's why I ran that move. And then, Scald just to burn things. So that is the Tentacruel set. Very important this week. Our second mon of the week is Mega Diancie. Mega Diancie is running Calm Mind, Moonblast, Power Gem, Earth Power, Max Attack, 240 Speed with a Timid Nature, and 16 HP. Mega Diancie is just a very nice spammable mon this week, as I can just spam moves against a lot of his team, especially mons like Rotom Fan, Cobalion with Earth Power, Manabuzz, Arcanine, Megalodios, so stuff like that. Basically, if Manabuzz comes in, Mega Diancie is a free switch in every time, so that's why I don't think Manabuzz is even going to come. So that's that. And I don't really want to switch in a Latias, but I can take a hit, and then Moonblast just basically just knocks it out. It doesn't knock it out, but it just does enough damage to the point where he won't stay in. So that's that. Mega Diancie there's a few switch-ins, like Toxapex can switch in a few times on Mega Diancie, or a very special defensive Clefable can switch in as well. But I have answers for those things, especially Toxapex, so it's not that worried. And once those things are down, again, Mega Diancie just comes in and clicks buttons. Decidueye is a low-key threat for this Dynasty set because I can't really do so much damage to it, especially like a defensive Decidueye, so I have to be careful of that. But that is the Mega Dynasty, basically here just to spam moves and kind of cripple down his team. Next up, we have a Powdon. Powdon is rocking the leftovers of Sandstream. Moves being Earthquake, Toxic, Whirlwind, and Slack Off. 248 HP, 240 defense with an Impish Nature, and 20 in speed. This is mainly here to take hits from Cobalion and Arcanine. Basically, I can take 3 Flare Blitz from Banded Arcanine. I can also take a +2 Cobalion hit as well, so basically Powdon kind of walls them. It really walls Lycanroc Dusk for days. I do expect that thing to come because I know Toxapex can deal Volcarona fine, but I would think he would want an offensive answer for Volcarona, and his team kind of struggles offensively with it. Not really defensively, but offensively. But Lycanroc Dusk can take care of that, so that's why I have Powdon here to take hits from it. I can also Earthquake the Toxapex for a lot of damage, and to basically spread Toxic around his teams when I'm not clicking Earthquake. That's a good thing about Powdon. Mandibuzz can switch in, Mega Latios can switch in, Decidueye, Nerdum Fan, but the good thing is that I can either switch out and take advantage of those mons, or I can just Toxic and whittle those things down. So that is the Powdon set. Next up, we have Rotom Frost. Rotom Frost is running the Charty Berry with 248 HP, 36 Spadef with a Calm Nature, and 224 in speed. Moves being Volt Switch, Hex, Will-O-Wisp, and Pain Split. This is my main Mamoswine switch-in, as the only thing Mamoswine can do to even touch me is Stone Edge, and I had the Charty Berry for that. Then I can proceed to Will-O-Wisp and burn it, and then cripple it for the rest of the match. So that is my goal with the Rotom Frost, is to burn that Mamoswine, and I can Pain Split any health he even gets off me in the end as well. So there's that. It is also here for a lot of other reasons, but Mamoswine is the main reason. It can take hits from Decidueye pretty fine, Rotom Fan especially, if that even comes. Toxapex, Mandibuzz, and Mega Latios to an extent. Don't really have a Mega Latios switch-in, so I guess Rotom's going to be that switch-in. The reason I chose Hex over HP Ice is because it does way more damage to Decidueye and Mega Lati if I manage to burn the Decidueye or Lati, so that's the goal for that. I can come in on Toxapex, even though Volt Switch does less than half, I can at least Volt Switch out into another mon like Tentacruel or like Haxorus or anything else to take advantage of the Toxapex. So that's why I'm not too worried with just having Volt Switch and not Thunderbolt. And then, Mandibuzz as well. But that is the Rotom Frost set. Next up, we have Haxorus. Haxorus is running Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Poison Jab, max attack at 240 speed with a Jolly Nature, and 16 in HP with the Poison EMZ. I went back and forth between Poison EMZ and Ground EMZ a lot because of the Arcanine and Clefable, but I ultimately decided for the Poison EMZ because Clefable was a little more of a problem for my team. Haxorus is a weird mon this week, as is either going to be a very early game breaker or a late game sweeper. I say that because Acelgor is kind of scary with Final Gambit, and Haxorus is my switch-in for that, just to sack off the Haxorus for Acelgor. I'm fine with that because I don't want Tentacruel going down. So that might be a thing. If Acelgor comes, Haxorus is probably leading, to be honest. That's kind of the goal. But I can Dragon Dance on the Toxapex to take advantage of it, as long as I don't get too unlucky with Scald Burn. And I can Dragon Dance on Decidueye if that decides to come as well. And once I get up to +1/+1, it is very scary for his team because Mega Lati's not taking a hit. Poison MZ knocks out Clefable. Mamoswine's not really taking a hit. Toxapex is not taking... Nothing on the team takes a hit, basically. So that's the goal for Haxorus on this team. I could use as a late game sweeper, but again, Acelgor is just a big problem, as if he is going to Final Gambit something, I would rather it be a Haxorus than anything else on the team. So that is Haxorus. And then lastly, we have Ash Greninja. Greninja is running a Surf, Dark Pulse, Water Shuriken, and Spikes with the black glasses. 252 speed attack, 160 speed with a Timid Nature, and 96 in HP. Going kind of out of my comfort zone, not having U-turn on this set was really not really comfortable for me. But the thing is, I can switch in on Toxapex and just set up Spikes, because Toxapex can't do much back to me outside of Toxic or whatever. If he wants to set up his own Toxic Spikes, then Tentacruel just comes in and absorbs them. And basically, the goal with Spikes is that if he wants to bring in one of his Defoggers, any of his Defoggers, being in Mega Latios, Mandibuzz, Decidueye, or Rotom Fan, that is, except for Decidueye, that is a free switch into Mega Dynasty any day of the week. And just spamming moves with that thing is pretty awesome. And if he wants to bring in Decidueye to defog away, I could bring in Haxorus and start Dragon Dancing up. So getting some Spikes up is going to be very important, though it's going to be kind of hard with his team concept. I just have to get Toxapex in, but I don't want really going to be taking too much shit on this thing. So there's that. I'm starting to speak a different language at this point. And Water Shuriken for maybe like taking off the Mamoswine or picking off the Arcanine or Acelgor if it's low. And even the Lycanroc Dusk if it becomes kind of a problem. So that is the Ash Greninja set. And that is the team builder for this week. I just started speaking like really weirdly at the end there. I apologize. Any other notes I want to add is that Volcarona was the only other mon I considered bringing, a bulky Volcarona to take hits from the Decidueye and a Selgor, but I didn't really know to take off the team in order to put Volcarona on there, so in the end I ultimately decided to take it off. First game without it. And I'm going to read off any more notes. That's kind of it. That is it for the team builder. And now we're going to go over to Pokemon Showdown and watch the battle. Alright, we have arrived at Pokemon Showdown, and the first thing I'm noticing is that he did not bring the Megalodios, but he did bring the Clefable and a Selgor. So I have to be really careful with my Tentacruel this matchup. Since the Selgor is coming, I am going to just lead off with the Haxorus and try and get as much damage as possible on this thing. Unfortunately, he leads Mamoswine, as I can never get a lead matchup right for the life of me, so I am going to switch out here and go into Frost, as that is my dedicated switch-in, as he is just going to click off a nice Skull Crash, and this shows that he is not a damage-boosting item, and I'm actually faster than it, so Will-O-Wisp goes off, and now this Mamoswine is crippled. He does get up his rocks, which is kind of unfortunate for my Rotom, but the good thing is that this Mamoswine is no longer a threat to my team, and he's going to switch in Toxapex, because I'm just going to go for Hex to get some chip damage on it, and it does nothing. But luckily, Toxapex can't really touch me back, so I'm just going to burn it since I can get some type of status on it. As now, Toxapex is no longer getting passive recovery with Black Sludge. Still a regenerator, but not with Black Sludge. Here I'm going to Pain Split and try and get a little bit of HP back. I know Toxapex doesn't have too much HP, but a little bit is better than nothing, as I am going to get a whopping 2% back after that exchange, and Toxapex is a little bit lower now. What I could do here is Volt Switch and go into Greninja and set up spikes, but I decided to go into Tentacruel to take the hit, the Scald, and probably just stall it out a bit. But no, I'm using Tentacruel as a pivot into Haxorus. That's what I was doing. So I'm going to go for the early game Haxorus, kind of just clean up, as he does burn me, which is unfortunate, but he's also clicking Scald a billion times, so it's to be expected. As I'm just going to go to Haxorus, as I expect him to either switch out or recover, as he is going to switch out, and he goes into Decidueye, which is the best case scenario. So I get a free Dragon Dance off here, as he is going to go into Clefable. At this point, I'm thinking, please don't switch out in the Cobalion and predict the Z. So I'm just going to click the Z, and he does stay in. But unfortunately for me, as I do fire off the Acid Downpour, he is Kevia Berry, the worst item that he could have been, and Moonblast is going to come out and knock me out. So that is huge, because if he was not Kevia, I basically won the game. Mamoswine is crippled, so there's that. I don't know how he would have beat me if he didn't have a Kevia Berry Clefable. So really good prep on Tony's part. Here I'm going to come in with Diancie, Mega Evolve, and just clean up the Clefable. So Clefable's gone, so we're still in a fairly good position, but my Breaker is kind of gone too. So I'm going to go into Frost, and unfortunately, I calc damage wrong, and I died to that Leaf Blade, so that's really unfortunate. As now I'm down 2 Mons already. I'm going to go into Tentacruel, and this is probably the dumbest turn of the game, as I take the Leaf Blade damage. Now I'm at 29%, but I'm not getting reliable recovery in Black Sludge because I am burned. And this stinks because you'll see later. I have a way of dealing with the Decidueye that I didn't really notice. This turn I am going to switch in. I'm just going to click for Scald actually, because he was at -2. As Mamoswine is going to take a boatload of damage. And knowing this Mamoswine is burned, I can go and hit Powdon and take any hits for days. As Powdon's going to come in and basically just wall this Mamoswine to death. As he is just going to fire off an Earthquake, it's not going to do anything, 15%. Now this turn, I decide he might try and keep Mamoswine as a sack for later, so I'm just going to fire off a Toxic. As he goes into the Decidueye, and now I'm going to fire off a Toxic. I do miss, which is really unfortunate, but in the end it doesn't really matter. Now here's why taking that damage on Tentacruel really sucked. I didn't realize that Leaf Blade was only doing 32%. My Hippowdon could have switched in, took the hit, and kept taking hits. And I got Toxic off in this Decidueye now, and I could just stall it out. So taking that damage on Tentacruel was really bad, because the Selgor is still chilling in the back there. And since Hippowdon can take on Cobalion fine, because I can just slack off this damage, assuming he doesn't get a crit with Leaf Blade, I'll be fine. So I'm going to whittle this thing down a bit. And here, I know I can live 2 Leaf Blade, so I'm just going to fire off an Earthquake, as he's going to switch into Mamoswine, and down goes the Mamoswine. So it is 4-4, but that Selgor is looking really scary, and that Cobalion is also looking kind of scary if I overpredict with this Hippowdon. He goes right into the Cobalion, so I'm like, alright, I'll just Earthquake now, because he can't do anything without boost. He is a Swords Dance set. I am going to go for the Earthquake, and it does well over half. Now, knowing my Calyx, I do guarantee live a Z move, and once this Cobalion's gone, Hippowdon has done its job, as he's just going to go for Rock Polish, assuming I switch out. So I basically just pick up a free kill on the Cobalion, which is really, really awesome. But now, here comes the Toxapex, and here's another missed turn. I could have went into Greninja to set up spikes for late game, but I decided just to get damage off on the Toxapex, as he is going to Scald me. Luckily, we don't get burned, but that is a lot of damage, as you guys see in a few seconds. I'm going to click Earthquake again, and the Tox Specs is going to go down, but since I am at 78%, Selgor, if he is a Choice Specs Selgor, if Energy Ball knocks me out. So I have to hope. I'm going to switch into Tentacle because I realized that I wasn't getting reliable recovery, and I made a dumb move of saving it, as Energy Ball does knock me out, so that's really unfortunate. Now, if he is a non-boosting item, I have a roll to live this highly in my favor, but if he is any boosting item, I don't live. As you'll see here, Energy Ball knocks out my Mega Diancie, and at this point I know he's either Expert Belt or Specs, and at that point it's basically GG, because Paladon's not going to live the Energy Ball at this point, and Greninja is not going to have any move to knock. Water Shuriken's not going to knock it out even with 5 hits. So that is, unfortunately, guys, we are going to lose 2-0 to Tony after a nice back-and-forth type of game. I think he had a nice early game. I had a really, really good middle game, but the Selgor was really nice for him, and in the end, he is going to pull out victorious with a 2-0. I got 2 hits, and not that matters, but that is the game, guys. GG to Tony. Looking back at it, I definitely could have used Haxorus late game rather than early game because his switch-ins were non-existent, and if I had gotten that Clefable down weakened by like Tentacle or like Diancie or something, Haxorus could have came in and Dragon Danced on the Tox Specs or the Decidueye, and that kind of would have been it. So, looking back, that could have been a good play, and also maybe getting Spikes up. I had multiple opportunities to get Spikes up with Greninja and weaken down that Selgor to maybe at least Water Shuriken could pick it off, but hence, that's not how the battle went. But I also think Tony had a really, really good game plan with keeping a Selgor late game to clean up my team, and the Kevia Berry for the Haxorus was very good, knowing that I had Mold Breaker and I went through unaware. So I think Tony did a really, really good job at prepping for my team. So again, GG to Tony, very well played game. But anyways, moving on, next week we reach the midpoint of the PEBA as we take on Young Bisharp, coach of the Lumiose Luxrays. He was a part of Season 2, if you guys remember from last season, and if you do recall, he did have a pretty bad season last season, but alas, he has turned it around, and he is doing very, very well this season, so big props to him. He's got a Blaziken on his team of Speed Boost, so that's really scary. So that is what's next week's battle. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel. That's all I got for you guys. I'm going to head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.